Hey there, folks. Welcome. It is almost time for Advent of Code. If you don't know what Advent of Code is a little series of coding puzzles that exist every December 1st to 25th, and they're usually Christmas themed and really wacky and out there, and it allows people to tackle programming puzzles using whatever means that they want. You could choose to, fortify your talents and your experience in a language you already know. You can go kind of out there and do whatever you want, really. Usually the puzzles are text files. You get a sample input file. They tell you what the output should be, and then they give you a giant file, which you could only do programmatically. And so you solve it and you submit it and you get a yes or no. At least that's how it used to work in the past. Truthfully, I've never gone through an entire series before. I've only made it a few days in. I think a couple of years ago I tried to solve it in Clojure. That was a crazy experience. No one should ever do that in real life. Anyway, I thought I would like to go through the entirety of Advent of Code, but I don't want to do it in something I think is useful. So I was trying to think, what is the worst operating system we can use, and what is the worst programming language we can use, just to give ourselves a bit of a challenge. And so, of course, I went back in time. We're going to program like it's 1991. So here we go. This is day 0. Advent of Code has not quite started yet. But we're, as you see right here, we're going to use VirtualBox. And yep, we're going to use Windows 3.1. Now we could use DOS. DOS is very old. But the problem with DOS is it's a command line interface, and a lot of programming works well in the command line. You can run QBasic, you could run C, you could, just doing Advent of Code in C is something probably 3 billion people have already done. So, we could, I think QBasic is on here. Yeah, there we go. And, oh, you can't see my screen. There we go. This. There we go. Now I've done lots of videos on QBasic, and we can do things in QBasic, but QBasic is convenient. I want something inconvenient, so we are not going to program in QBasic. What we are going to program in is Windows 3.1. Now I know Windows 3.1 is not technically an operating system. It's more of a window environment, but that's okay. You can already see my intention right here. Forget about that. Windows 3.1 we are going to use. Now we can use QBasic in Windows 3.1. Does that really mean we're programming in Windows 3.1? No, of course not. I want to use the inconvenience of the user interface. And so we're going to do Advent of Code in Visual Basic, but not just Visual Basic like you know it, perhaps. When I was in high school, we did a semester on QBasic. It changed my life. But the last couple of weeks of that semester, I think it was in grade 11 at the time, we did a section on Visual Basic. You take QBasic to Windows and make these Windows applications. And I thought, well, okay. At first I thought it was going to be really cool, but I quickly realized that it wasn't going to be cool, because GUI applications are just boring. They're boring to make. See, in a DOS environment, in QBasic, you had full control of the screen. You could make little games. You can draw shapes on the screen. Do whatever you want. Text, keyboard input, everything. The world was your playground, really. In Visual Basic, which I believe was Visual Basic 6, it wasn't very fun. All you could make was buttons and text boxes, and that was it. So I never really spent a lot of time with Visual Basic 6. I did get Visual Basic 5, and I played around with that a little bit after I graduated, but it wasn't that fun. So I thought, well, it would be very interesting to do Advent of Code in Visual Basic, but not Visual Basic 6, not Visual Basic 5. We're going all the way back to 1991, and we're going to use Visual... Oh, that was really quick. Here we go. Visual Basic 1.0, copyright 1987 to 1991. You could see I'm running 16 megs of RAM. I thought I only gave this machine 8. I have a math coprocessor, so that's very good. Yeah, so there was a Visual Basic 1.0 made for DOS, and I just learned that this year. That might be interesting to check out sometime, but because it's DOS, I think it would be more convenient than Visual Basic for Windows. And the first thing you'll notice is that this toolbar here is very, very slim. There's not a whole lot. That's the first thing that you notice. And the next thing I notice, there's no tooltips. You have no idea what these things are. You just hover over these things and nothing's coming up. So I think this is a button. There you go, that's a button. And we can run this, start, and there you go. There's our program, our Windows program. And we can click the button and it's not going to do anything because we haven't done any code. So here's my idea. I want to use Microsoft Visual Basic to go through Advent of Code this year, and actually try and use some of the UI elements. I don't know how easy that's going to be, but yeah, whatever. So I want to use buttons and input boxes, and how is this going to be useful for Advent of Code? I have no idea. We might just be throwing that all out eventually, but this is my idea. Now the other thing is Advent of Code, you get the input file from the internet, you run your program, you get your output, and then you have to submit your output back to the website. And seeing as how this is Windows 3.1 running in a VirtualBox, I don't have an internet here. So I thought about this for a long time, like 5 minutes. And if I do this, okay, and then I do this. Maybe you can't see this on screen. No, you can't. So I made a floppy disk image. Yeah. Because this is 1991, we are going to be transferring files via a floppy disk. So, here's my floppy disk. No. Where's my floppy disk? I put my floppy disk in. This is something I was testing out, so none of this is real. We're going to delete all that. Yeah. And recycle bins didn't exist, so that's fine. I think this was a sound blaster I was trying to install somehow. Anyway, this isn't a real floppy disk. It's a virtual floppy disk that exists on my real computer as a file. So I'm going to mount it in my real computer as a read-only disk image, and then we'll mount it here in VirtualBox as a write. I wonder if I can get. Can I get? No, I can't get properties. Is it up here? Window, tree. Oh, this is awful. Copy disk. Rename. No, I guess we're going to have to go to a DOS prompt and go. Okay, so we see that there's nothing there. File not found. Volume in drive A is AR. I am not sure what that means. File not found. Well, what if we just made a file, saved it. There we go, and now we actually get a listing of how many bytes are free. That was weird. Is there something in DOS I can't remember? Anyway, 1.4 meg. This is a 1.44 megabyte floppy disk, and so all of our stuff from the internet is going to have to go onto the disk, and then we're going to have to load it up into Windows 3.1, do our processing, output it back to the disk, go back to my real computer, upload that to the website, and hopefully get the green check mark. So, I don't know. This might be fun. This might be awful. I probably am going to really regret it. What else can I say? Yeah, we're gonna have some fun. If you've never seen a Microsoft Visual Basic before, well, it's pretty much the same all the way version 1 through version 6. Not a big difference, and it's basic under the hood. So we'll go into it more. But GUI development hasn't actually changed a lot. I tried some Linux Glade GUI stuff a couple of weeks ago, and it's basically the same. I mean, what you have here is kind of the core GUI development experience. So yeah, we'll have some fun. And I think the one thing I don't know, how do you view code? Oh, this is bad. So this is the code that's going to run when you click on the form. What about load? Okay, there we go. Subform load. Yeah. And do we get? Oh my word. Okay, we do get some capitalization if we are typing real commands, at least. That 4 went from a lowercase f to capital F. But if I misspell it, yeah, okay. So we do get instant gratification here. Okay, well, at least that's something. It's kind of like QBasic. But yeah, there's no IntelliSense, of course. There's no nothing. It's garbage is what it is. But we don't know that because it's 1991 and that's all we got. So awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today. Join me tomorrow when we dive into the first day 1 Advent of Code challenge. See you next time.